Awesome. Hi, everyone. Good evening, first of all. I'm Kubilay, the CEO of Matrixed.link. We are a Web3 service provider. We've been running Chainlink Oracles and Validators on numerous blockchain networks for the past few years. Today, I'm going to talk a bit about the nuances between running blockchain Validators and Chainlink Oracles, kind of like what are the operational differences, things like that. So let's dive right in. I'll first give a brief overview about what a validator is, what a Chainlink Oracle is, and then I'll dive in what the operational scope is, how it differs from each other on a technical level, what are the key differences. I'll also give a bit of overview on the security and what kind of challenges and risks we as Oracle operators face in contrast to validator operators. I'll also give a quick overview of our experience with operating in a simple DVT module of Lido Finance. So as we all know, blockchain validators are the backbone of blockchain networks. They participate in the consensus mechanism. They validate transactions and add new blocks to the chains. So a validator is typically isolated to one chain, and this makes it that operational teams, service providers are able to focus their operational expertise on that particular chain and make sure that they're as successful as possible on that one chain. In contrast, Chainlink Oracles, you should see them more as a bridge between blockchain networks and the real world. It makes it possible to have data submissions into smart contracts using asset prices, real world data, weather data, cross-chain messages, whatever, to build decentralized applications and build novel DeFi use cases that people use and deposit TVL in. So when you look at the operational scope between validators, as I said, they're typically isolated to one chain. So if you take Ethereum validators, for example, you have your validators on the Ethereum blockchain, and that's the only thing and the only network conditions you have to abide by, and make sure you run your infrastructure on that particular blockchain as successful as possible. So you only have to take care of running the infrastructure that's necessary to keep your validator nodes running. But if you look at Chainlink Oracle, from its essence, it's chain agnostic. So they have multi-chain deployments where you have to keep track of numerous different blockchain network conditions, numerous blockchain software clients, numerous blockchain full nodes, RPCs, and whatnot, and make sure that you keep track of all the software updates, all of the hard forks, and make sure that the infrastructure keeps running as is, so you have your data submissions for the price feeds or your cross-chain token transfers with CCIP. So if you look at the technical aspect of how can I run validators in contrast to Chainlink Oracles, how can I be successful in running both? Validators, as I said, are isolated to one chain. So now as a team of service providers, I can focus on Ethereum, make sure that my hardware setup, make sure that my tooling, make sure that my scripts, monitoring is specialized and prioritized to make sure my infrastructure on Ethereum is running at the highest level possible, so I have the best block inclusion, so I have the best validator performance, whatever. That is a key difference between Chainlink Oracles, where in its essence, as I said, Chainlink is multi-chain, it's chain agnostic. So by having to run Chainlink Oracles for data feeds on, for example, Optimism, Arbitrum, Base, Polygon, I need to make sure that I keep track of all of these software clients, of all of these software updates on Polygon, on Optimism. I need to make sure that they run. I can't just run one node and run one RPC node and that's it. I need to have security. I need to run multiple. I need to load balance them. I need to make sure that nothing in the pipeline between data collection, data submission, data assurance, and submission to on-chain smart contracts with the Chainlink Oracles, nothing in that pipeline can go wrong. And the pipeline is longer than it is when operating validators. So we've been running in the Lido Finance simple DVT module for the past year. We're running in a supercluster and 2 normal clusters. So I think it's about now 400, 500 Ethereum validators in total. And what we've experienced in contrast to operating Chainlink Oracles is that running Ethereum validators at scale, so a few hundreds with their simple DVT module, is that we are able to prioritize our technical know-how, our technical stack, our operational excellence on making sure that the Ethereum validators on Ethereum are running as perfect as possible, as reliable as possible, that we operate in our cluster and communicate as needed with the SSV team, with the OVAL team, and with the Lido team. When you compare it to Chainlink, it's a lot different because for every different service on every different chain, we have to run a separate Chainlink Oracle that we need to fund with gas. So we need to have some form of treasury management to scale to numerous chains and make sure that we keep being relevant as Chainlink node operators and keep expanding to have like a broader Web3 footprint in the ecosystem. When you look at the security and risks when it comes to Chainlink Oracles and validators, I mean, as running validators, you have your risk of being slashed, of if you're not performing, you need to make sure that there is no financial or reputational risk involved with your operation. So you need to make sure that on one particular blockchain, you're as successful as you can be. The problem is when you compare that to Chainlink Oracles, we can't just focus on one chain. So we need to make sure that the data we get from the data providers, which are like 20, 30 worldwide, we need to make sure that the data quality that comes in and goes out is at the institutional level, because you have all of these DeFi apps that are reliant on Chainlink Oracles to get price data or other proof of reserves data or whatever data they need into their smart contracts to enable their DeFi applications. So the aspect is that Chainlink has a broader footprint on the ecosystem as a whole, and that the Ethereum validators, for example, with Lido Finance, has the biggest impact on the Ethereum ecosystem as a blockchain. If you look at the differences, like running at scale, like Ethereum validators at scale, if you have the curated set with the Lido Finance operation, where you have the curated node operators that run like thousands and thousands of validator, their main problem is, okay, how do I scale my operation to run 10,000 Ethereum validators? But I'm still just exposed to the network conditions and the environment of the Ethereum blockchain. Whereas if I want to expand in a Chainlink network, I'm now exposed to like 10, 20, 30, in the future, hundreds of chains and their own specific network conditions. Each network conditions difference has big differences from each other. So if you have like your ZK VM chain, you have your layer 2s, you have your Cosmos chains, the new Move chains. Chainlink is going to support almost all of these chains in the near future. Right now, it's mostly EVM and Solana, but in the future, you'll have like Cosmos, Move, and this and that. So we have a technical overhead of like, okay, we need automation scripts, we need automation tooling, we need to fix our deployments, we need to build a cohesion infrastructure to deploy on numerous networks at the same time and make sure that every network, all the data submissions on those networks are of the highest quality and standard. Yeah, that was what I wanted to share about like the nuances between operating validators and Chainlink Oracles. I hope you guys learned something about like the differences between the infrastructures. If you have questions, I walk around, you can just like grab me and we can talk about it. Thank you. Yeah.